is His Excellency Honorable Dr. Mahindra Reddy, the Minister of Education, Heritage and Arts of Fiji. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
The President of the General Conference, the Chairperson of the Executive Board, Madam Director General of UNESCO, Excellencies, distinguished delegations, ladies and gentlemen, Bulavanaka to you all. Allow me to extend my profound congratulations to UNESCO on behalf of the Fiji government for having reached its 70th anniversary this month. Fiji celebrates with the rest of the world in acknowledging immense contributions of UNESCO to education, culture, science, communication, and information. I pay tribute to those visionary leaders who helped UNESCO steer the organization successfully and strategically through a very unstable and challenging period since its inception in November 1945 to achieve long-lasting peace throughout the world. I reaffirm with deep convictions that we all must embrace UNESCO's vision that it is in men that wars begin and it is in minds of women and men that peace shall be built. Mr. President, in my maiden speech this morning in this august body of UNESCO, I would like to reflect on Fiji's achievements. You are well aware that Fiji successfully completed its general elections in September last year, giving a clear mandate to the Fiji First Party to govern Fiji for the next 4 years. With its new 50-member parliament, and I'm proud to say that Fiji has and will continue to assume its global role amongst the democracies of the world. Fiji has continued to leap forward in its economic growth, reaching more than 4% since 2012 and 5.3% in 2014, and domestic and foreign investments continue to grow their business in Fiji, bringing much relief to the people in terms of employment opportunities, better living standards, healthier lifestyles, and much more robust and dynamic communities. We are indeed grateful for UNESCO's immense contribution to education, culture, natural and human sciences, and communication information to Fiji. These are the areas of numerous capacity building programs, assistance to international regional conferences, technical support, funding and undertaking research work, to name a few. Equally, we are privileged to have been assisted by UNESCO in support of continuous development of historical port town of Lavuka, which was inscribed as a World Heritage Site in June 2013. Mr. President, on gender equality, as this is the global priority of UNESCO and reflecting on Education 2030 and the framework for action, Fiji will continue to strengthen its gender policy by ensuring that women and men have equal opportunities for recruitment and promotion in schools, for capacity building, for selection of in-service and free service teachers, the eradication of gender violence towards women and girls, and to strengthen the program and initiatives to reduce and prevent school-related gender-based violence. Fiji has made great strides in the education sector. The government allocated for the first time the highest budget, 16.7% of the total government budgets towards education. Currently, it's proud to show that Fiji's adult literacy rate stands at 93%. Mr. President, we have ECE centers, primary and secondary schools, and 3 universities throughout Fiji. We have strategized for reforms in education that we have embarked on from late last year, continuing on from reforms undertaken prior to elections last year by the reigning Bainimarama government, basically to ensure that everyone is giving free education from preschool right to up first degree for the university. Mr. President, like any other country, we have our share of challenges, and these are the poor lack of infrastructure and the geographical spatial distribution of schools across 150 islands in Fiji. Mr. President, in culture, these are the activities that we have embarked on. Ratification of UNESCO 2003 Convention for Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage, national consultation on UNESCO 2005 Convention for Protection and Promotion of Cultural Expressions, signing of bilateral cultural cooperation between Fiji and China, to name a few. Mr. President, currently the following are some of the challenges that we need to be confronted with: embracing contemporary culture as part of a collective culture and heritage sector to be covered in national policy, and intellectual property and privacy issues. Mr. President, I will now provide some brief background on our National Archives. The National Archives of Fiji has moved in leaps and bounds over the last 4 years. We have started on our reform program to modernize operations and increase our impact on society. Firstly, we have secured a staff increase that has enabled us to implement quality assurance programs to deal with numerous unplanned deposits that were taking up vital space and jeopardizing the proper management of our holdings. Outreach activities have also increased dramatically as seeks to put public in touch with their heritage. Mr. President, in the communications and information sector, we have also distributed one learning device for use by primary school students, especially in the rural and remote areas. The government has also established ICT telecentres to bridge the digital divide in rural, remote areas. We've also launched our digital literacy program in schools earlier this year in our bid to develop the digital exposure of our children so that they can establish themselves as natives of this digital area that we live in. We've also secured assistance from developed countries to assist us in our quest to bridge this digital divide. Mr. President, in climate change, I want to reiterate the words of our Honorable Prime Minister when he delivered his statement at the UN General Assembly in September this year. He said, and I quote, "Like our neighbors in the South Pacific and other small island developing states, we see bright future. We have charted ourselves deemed by the prospect of climate change and sea level rise. Fiji has been outspoken in insisting that all nations do their duty to reduce carbon emissions and control production of greenhouse gases. Fiji is doing its part, by our part in creating this crisis is very small, particularly negligible. The more developing nations as well must do their part." Mr. President, the Education 2030 agenda with its framework for action as adopted by the World Conference of Education in Korea in May this year sets a clear pathway for Fiji to reassess its commitment and to map the way forward. Fiji, being a developing country, cannot do this alone as we rely on UNESCO and the more developed countries for further assistance. Finally, Mr. President, I convey my well wishes for a successful conference. Thank you. Naka and Dhanyawad.